Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to Passions Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the soap opera Passions. I am your regular host, LeTara, back with your semi-regular host, Dr. Eric Vera.
Hello, hello. It is so good to be here with you and to celebrate. LeTara, you have reached episode 600.
We
Wow.
we did this. It was a
It has,
community effort.
yeah, to think where you started. And again, I mean, it is just crazy to get to episode 600. All of the wacky hijinks, sex, magic, pain, and suffering, and
Um,
all that good
It's
stuff. It's been,
it's been a wild ride and we haven't even reached the wildest stuff yet. But
oh,
honestly, I could not have ever done this truthfully without your help and the help of the other people who have come on to help guest host and Laura obviously and just like
yeah,
the people who are watching the podcast, listening to the podcast. I There's no way I would have made it to 600 if my
yeah,
podcast was doing like numbers in the 20s. Like I would have given up a
yeah.
long time ago. So thank y'all. Thank you all so much.
Yeah, and we would never have gotten here and found out that Kay Bennett has something in common with Angela Bassett and Chadwick Boseman.
She's the Black Panther, y'all. She's Wakanda forever. She's
We,
the Black Panther. This week was a fun week. We did a lot of recap, but
yes,
we did get some action things. There's some movement in the story, so I wasn't too disappointed because some weeks it's all recap.
yeah.
Some weeks it's all recap. So, before we get started today, I'm going to say a quick shout out to all of our patrons over on Patreon. Thank you to Munashe, Marcus, Breland, Lisa, Sid, Sarana, Randall, Hannah, Camelia, Samantha, Jeanette, Eric, Fantasia, Sean, S, Larissa, Maria, George Lopez Fitzgerald, Lisa, Jessica Jean, Laura, Karen, Uche, and Justin. Thank you all so much for being patrons. We had a watch party this past Friday, and it was so much fun. We had a blast. We had an
I'm
absolute blast.
jealous. I wasn't able to make it this time. It sounds like it was hopping in there.
Yeah, so if you're on the Patreon and you haven't been joining the watch parties, you're really missing out. And if you're not on the Patreon, you're really missing out. So so yeah, go out there patreon.com/passions podcast and sign up for the Patreon because we're gonna be doing some more things. The girls on the party on Friday gave me some ideas for like a game night. I was like, yes, trivia night. We could do like so
Yeah,
much. So I'm gonna be incorporating some of those ideas coming up in February for sure.
great.
All right, so we watched episodes 596 through 600. 600. Boop, 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 boop,
Crazy.
boop,
That is
boop.
crazy.
We did it. I can't believe it. But this was a fun week. So we're gonna
Mhm.
start with David and Sam and Grace. I don't know why I said it in that order.
I wrote in my notes the other day, David and Sam, and I was like, that doesn't sound right.
It
I mean,
doesn't.
like,
It didn't
yeah,
feel right coming out of my
yeah.
mouth.
Ivy and Sam makes sense. Grace and Sam makes sense. But I was like, David?
David
I
and
was like,
Sam.
yeah,
Yeah, just saying his name doesn't sound right to coming out of my
yeah,
mouth. I don't like him. Okay,
yeah.
so we're gonna start with the David. I did it again. The Grace and Sam and David storyline. Jesus, and Sam this week ends up kind of wrapped up in Teresa's stuff. So at some point we will transition over to all of the Teresa, Ethan, Gwen stuff. So
Yeah.
let's pick up with Grace and Sam. Okay, so Sam and Grace are getting ready for this ill-fated trip up to this lodge, the ski lodge. This Remember the same one where Ivy drugged Grace and tried to throw her naked body onto Sam on top of Grace's body, limp body. So I
Let's
mean it's
recapture those beautiful memories, huh,
I
Sam?
I know it's already off to a bad start, but it doesn't matter because David comes in saying, "Oh, Grace, I have this photo shoot that I've just been called up for, and if we don't go now to dinner I'll never be able to tell you about your past because it's now or never." He says that
Yeah,
this week. It's now or never, I
yeah.
fear.
There's no other option. The message will self-destruct if he doesn't go to have dinner with her today. And it's so stupid. Again, remembering full well that he was eavesdropping and hearing these conversations, so he knows that he needs to stop them from leaving.
Yeah. And so David, I'm not David. Sam says, "Oh, it's kind of convenient for him to have chosen this exact moment to come say he needs to talk to Grace about her past." So he has an inkling that there's something a little fishy going on for sure.
But also holding her past for ransom is so like, how is no one just being like, this is weird? And they will eventually finally talk about some of these things, but
Yo,
already
this
ginormous
week,
red flags.
this week, Grace did what we have been begging her
Yep.
to do.
Yep. Yep. I
Begging
will
her to
give her
do.
props. We will give her props as she gets them because she actually did stuff.
Yeah. So, Grace says, "Well, I want to hear about my past for sure, but I have plans. I'm planning to go on this trip." David says, "Oh, you know what? I'll tell you what. I'll call the magazine. I'll see if I can delay the shoot a bit, and then I'll come back and I can tell you as much as you want about your past life. Like how you like the movie The Goodbye Girl."
Yeah, that was that what he said? I wrote some dumbass example is what I wrote, but I didn't write it down.
The Goodbye Girl. I've never heard of Goodbye Girl. I don't know this movie, but Grace looks stunned by this. She turns to Eve because Eve and TC show up. TC, we get a TC sighting
Yeah.
after all these after all
Yeah.
these years.
He's been in the
Um,
murder shed just hanging out.
just hanging out, making his murder plans. So she turns to Eve and says, "Eve, remember when we rented that movie?" And Eve's like, "Yeah, you said you felt like you had seen it before." I'm sure Grace has seen tons of movies. I'm
Yeah.
sure when in the first 20 years of her life, she saw lots of movies.
Yeah.
He could have just picked one out of random,
Yeah.
you know. Oh, I really remember or remember how much you loved Citizen Kane. It's like, yeah, I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, it's a classic. Remember how much you loved
Yeah.
Singing in the Rain? Yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah.
But you know what? Goodbye Girl, I've never even heard of. So that does disprove my point because it's not one of those like, well, maybe it is. I don't know. Do you know anything about Goodbye
I
Girl?
don't know it. I'm gonna have to look it up. I don't know it. Like I
Uh,
said, I just wrote down stupid ass example of her past. I did not go.
so anyway, he says, yeah, you used to love that movie, and I know so many other things that I want to tell you about your past, but I fear that if we don't go to dinner now, we never will. I'll never be able to tell you. And he says to her, "Are you gonna go on your trip with Sam, or are you going to go come to dinner with me?" He basically gives her an ultimatum.
Yeah,
Oh,
an ultimatum suitcase.
he gives an ultimatum, an old tomato soup cake. Yeah. Um, he basically gives her an ultimatum. Meanwhile, TC, not TC, well, yes, TC. Sam brings TC up to speed. They recap all these things together. And when we come back to Grace, she has made her decision. She says, I've made my decision. And ultimately, it was an easy decision to make." And David is like, "Great, let's get
Yeah,
going." He thinks she's chosen him. "Great, let's get going. We can get to the lobster shack around by 7 o'clock and whatever."
yeah,
And she says, "Oh no, I want to find out about my past and it's very important to me, but my marriage to Sam means everything to me and nothing is going to keep me from going on this trip with my husband." And she looks at Sam and says, "You are my life, Sam, you and the kids." So, because Sam says to her, "Don't you want to find out about your life before?"
Sam even says, "Go ahead, you can go have dinner with him. I'm fine with that." I will say David even offers, like, invites him. He's like, "You're more than welcome to come with me." He'll do it again, but I will say I really like this moment when she finally told everyone like Sam means more to me than all of this. But if you're watching the background, Eve is just kind of smiling like, mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's so excited. Like she's just enjoying it, and it's great because you can actually see her looking at David and being like, "What did I tell you? What did I tell you?" So that was really cool to watch Eve gloat a little bit in the background.
Yeah, she's back there going in her eyes going, "Yeah, scram, get out of here.
Yeah,
Go on, scram.
beat it. Yeah,
Beat it." Okay. So yeah, she says, no, my marriage to Sam is more important. And then she says, I've been thinking about how you can tell me about my past. Because David starts to leave. And he's like, well, you've made your choice. And he starts to walk off in like a huff. It's like, I thought you
Yeah,
loved this woman. Do you really not want her to know about her past? Like, are
yeah.
you really going to just hold that over her head? And he starts to leave. And Grace is like, no, here, I have these notebooks for you. I was thinking you could write down everything you remember about me and put them in the mail to me. And then
Finally.
she says, and if I have any questions, I can just call you. And then this man has the nerve to say, well, I don't know if I'll have access to a phone. Where are you going
Yeah.
that you won't have access to a phone?
Mars?
Like at all.
Yeah.
Right. Where are
Yeah.
you going? Are you
But even
going on the space shuttle? Even on the space shuttle, they have phones. They call them.
even then, like, I mean, come on, let's pen pals. We could write letters back and forth. I don't need that information all the time. But at least she finally gave us something logistical and said, write it down for me. She had two
Mm-hmm.
brand new spanking journals. Here you go. Go ahead and write that shit down for me, and if I have questions, I'll give you a call. And yeah, he was very obviously not a fan of this.
If somebody said to me, oh, if I said to them, yeah, I can just call you and we can just talk about it. And they were like, oh, I don't know if I'll have access to a phone. I would look at them and say, okay, where are you going?
Yeah.
I would genuinely want to know, where are you going that you won't have access to a phone?
That's when
Um,
Neve from Catfish shows up and it's like,
mm,
Grace, we have something to tell you. Yep. That's some catfishing bullshit right there. You
that is
have
some
access to a phone.
they're always like, my camera doesn't work.
David's camera doesn't work.
And he's a
It's bad.
photographer.
He's a photographer.
No, he is a catfish though, actually. So,
Yeah.
anyway, he says won't have access to a phone, and she says, well, we do have to keep in touch somehow because we have to stay in contact about the divorce and or annulment. And
And
he
that's fact. He's like, oh, yeah.
and I loved it. I loved that she
Yeah.
was like, no, we have to stay in contact because I have to contact you somehow. You're gonna have to sign these motherfucking papers.
Yeah.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
sir. What do you mean you're going off the grid?
Yeah.
No, not now. So she says we're gonna have to stay in contact because we have to settle our divorce. And then he reluctantly, almost belligerently, takes the notebooks
Oh, he
and
looked like a
and
little
he
kid who said you don't get dessert.
he just says, fine, fine. I'll come back to see you before I go. See you, and now you've painted yourself into a corner, sir.
Yeah. Because you
Um,
have to leave. You need
yeah.
to go. You said you're leaving, so go.
You said you're leaving, so go.
Hmm.
Please walk on out the door.
And
Don't turn
again,
around
yeah.
now. You're not welcome anymore.
I mean,
Weren't
and
you the
it's
one? Yeah.
so
Tried to
fun to
break
watch.
me with goodbye. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you.
Hey, it's all good. I'm just saying Sam, TC, and Eve are they're just so happy. Like it is like finally we can put this to bed. And it's to put it to rest. And yeah, it was
Yeah.
just cool to see them be victors for a little bit.
Yeah. So he goes on, leaves, uh and then Sam and Grace are so happy. Everybody's so happy.
Yeah, Eve's like, you made the right decision. Grace says, whatever my past is, my future is with you. It's
Yeah,
nice.
it's lovely for 30 seconds.
Yeah, literally like 30 seconds.
And then Pilar Pilar calls. That I know she's your fave, but this was ridiculous.
I already knew you were going to get mad at Pilar. I wrote it in my notes.
It's ridiculous. It's
There's got to be
absurd.
other doctors, first of all. There has to be other doctors out there.
Well, the thing is, she called Eve to do her job. Fine. Fine,
Yes.
fine, fine. All fine.
But Eve,
Um,
what does she do? Have her cell phone off.
right. So they call the house and looking for Pilar calls their house looking for Eve. Or no, somebody calls Pilar calls Sam to tell him about Ivy. No, no, no. Okay, so let me go back, rewind. Okay. Yes, Pilar
Oh, got
does
it.
call, but before Pilar calls,
The
the
hospital calls.
hospital calls and they
Yes.
call and tell Eve something. She doesn't know what. She just has an emergency to attend to at the hospital and she
And
leaves.
I was happy for that because I was ready for Eve to be like something's going on with Ivy, and then they were gonna go. That's not
Yeah.
what happens. She actually
No.
is like, I have an emergency at the hospital. I have to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
And so TC's like, yeah, I'll take you.
And then and that's when Pilar calls Sam on his cell phone and tells him that Ivy is in the hospital. And he says to her, they have great doctors at the hospital. Ivy will be fine. Good,
Yes,
good
which
for
was
Sam.
good.
Good for Sam.
Good.
And I was on board for this. And then she says, "Well, I'm not calling about Ivy. I'm calling for Ethan." And he's like, "Ethan? What's wrong with Ethan?" And she says, "I'm just afraid that something will happen tonight that will change his life and he will need your support."
Yeah.
Sam is very confused, and Pilar refuses to tell him what the fuck she's talking about. He's
She's
like,
very
"Pilar, you're
cryptic.
talking in riddles. What are you
Yeah, she's
talking
very
about?"
cryptic. And she says something like he might go in the wrong direction and do something he might regret.
Yeah, and just know that your son, this was the part that really irritated me. Just know that your son will need you tonight. It felt very manipulative.
Yeah.
I don't know, and it
I
gets
oh no,
worse.
I
It
know
gets
it's
worse when we get to the
yes, it
hospital.
does. I know, and it's so hard to be. I know she has to keep these secrets for two people, but particularly for Teresa. But like, you're messing around with somebody's like, um, you're messing with someone's ability to care for their kid. Like you're telling them something might happen, but I can't tell you. Like it's just that I don't know. That would really
Well,
fuck with my head.
and here's my thing. Pilar, when you say Pilar has to keep these secrets, no, the fuck she doesn't. She doesn't have to keep the secrets. She's keeping the secrets and she's martyring herself for it. And
Hmm.
she could have told the truth as much as she's always on Teresa's ass about telling the truth and being so judgmental about towards Teresa about not telling the truth. She sure does keep a fucking secret better than her own daughter does.
Yes, she
Okay?
does. But I will
And
say, under this logic, they do this a lot where they're like, Luis will kill somebody if he finds out. Ethan will kill somebody if he finds out. So, under their logic, she has to keep this secret. So, I'm just going to throw that out there as well. Because, I mean, it
okay,
is their logic.
Luis is in Bermuda.
I know, but like, do you know what I'm saying? Is like
I,
they've used these kinds of stupid um
I hear you
rationales.
saying, we
Yeah.
can people ration out all kinds of things, right? We do it all the time to ourselves. We lie to
Yeah.
ourselves all the fucking time.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, Pilar is not only lying to herself, she's lying to everybody around her
Yeah.
and getting on Teresa's ass about lying.
Yeah.
And then upsetting the balance in Sam and Grace's marriage when she has been up Ivy's asshole for the last 600 episodes about how we shouldn't interfere in Sam and Grace's marriage. But Sam is on the phone with her telling her, "Hey, I really got to go on this trip. It's really important for my marriage. You know how hard things have been for me and Grace." And she is insisting that you need to be here for your son. I'm sorry, Pilar didn't do it for me this week at all. I was like, no.
So what is Pilar to do?
She
Not say anything?
she been not saying anything this long. She
I
didn't say
like this.
anything.
I feel like we're on The View.
She didn't say anything when Ethan was born, when he
Yeah.
was one at his second birthday, his third, his fourth, his
Yeah.
fifth, his 20th, or his 25th birthday. She's been keeping the secret long enough.
Yeah.
She knows how to keep a secret. She knows how to keep her mouth shut. She
That's
does.
true.
So anyway, I digress. We're gonna move on. I mean, we will be talking more about Pilar
Yeah, I
because they
know.
have more interactions at the hospital. Anyway, so Grace overhears this phone call to an extent. She doesn't fully understand what's going on. Sam explains to her, "Yeah, Pilar's saying that I really need to get to the hospital. Ivy's hurt, but also Ethan needs me." And
Hmm.
then Grace is like, "Yeah, you should go." Because Sam doesn't want to go. Sam's like, "Ugh, I think I'm gonna
Yeah.
go on this trip. Ethan, he doesn't need me. I think I'm gonna go on this trip with you." And I know it's a hard choice. I don't know if it's a choice that I would necessarily be able to make. Like, it is his son that he just met, and he is trying to grow this relationship with him. And so it's understandable that he would feel stuck between a rock and a hard place, you know?
Yeah.
It is a hard decision to make, but he was trying to stick with Grace. But Grace
Yeah.
could tell that he was upset, not upset, but kind of worried.
Well,
And
yeah.
she
Especially it's
says,
very ominous.
yeah, she says, you know what? No, he's your son. And Pilar, we trust Pilar. So So you should go to the hospital. You'll have time to go to the hospital and you can just meet me at the train station. Now all of a sudden they have to take the train to the lodge.
Yeah.
But see, y'all are not going to get me, Passions, because I remember that the last time they went to this lodge, they drove. So why can't they just drive?
Yeah.
Why can't they just they both have cars? Why
Hmm.
can't they drove up there the last time? Now it puts them on like this time crunch because they have
Yeah.
train tickets, which is
Yeah.
annoying. I was so annoyed. I was very annoyed by this because I do remember so vividly the last time they went up to this lodge and how they drove up there.
Yeah.
But anyway, um Sam goes to the hospital. Meanwhile, David is listening in on all of this because he's a super spy. He's a peeping
Yeah.
Tom. He's a peeping Tom. He's not a super spy. He's a predator. This one. Um, so of course he shows back up at the house after spying, and he starts to plant ideas in Grace's head that Sam went to the hospital not for Ethan but for Ivy, and how dare he leave you again. I thought this was important to you. I thought this was important to the both of you. And she tells him, you know, one of the things I love most about Sam is his devotion to his children. So actually, I'm glad that he went off to be supportive of his son because
Yeah.
he's been a very, very devoted father to our children. And Ethan deserves to have a devoted father as well.
Yeah.
Lovely. I
Yeah.
know we give Grace shit sometimes, but
No, I
Grace is
was
actually a lovely person.
no, it was way better this time around. Particularly defending um Ethan and Sam's newfound relationship because he says something really fucked up because he's like, why is he gonna go take care of Ethan, a son he hardly knows? What kind
Hmm.
of bond could they have possibly formed? What the fuck does that have to do with you? And why would you tell Grace that? Grace does not like that either, and I was very appreciative of that because it pissed me off too. Like you don't have anything to say about them. You want to talk about my past? Go ahead and talk about my past. But now you're talking about shit you don't even know anything about. You just got here.
Yeah, you just got here. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And yeah, I was disgusted by that line of implication saying, "Oh, Ethan, he just met his son. He's Ethan and somehow he's his priority over you, his wife of 20 years." It's like, I mean, yes and no.
Yeah,
I mean, you have to weigh the situation. Pilar has called him, and she sounds like something horrible is going to
yeah,
happen to
yeah.
Ethan unless I show up. And also, I have I feel like my marriage is on the line. They do make it clear that this is
Yes,
like a pivotal turning point for Grace and
yeah.
Sam. That
Because I was just,
if
I,
they
I'm,
do
I'm,
not make it on this trip, that their marriage is not going to survive.
and it's a horrible thing to equate to one another because I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I get it, but it's like your house is still in the center of hell. Like, there's other shit going on for you to be going and taking a fucking vacation. I understand that it's important also, but like, let's not forget, Kay saw you kissing another man. Why are you not trying to, like, there are other things to be focusing on here, but I guess, yes, under what they're thinking, we need to go away and be ourselves for a little bit. Maybe that's one of the lines of discussion is like, hey, Kay saw me almost, you know, get it on with David. Maybe we need to talk about that at some point.
Yeah, they have a lot that they need to be discussing.
Yeah,
And
but
like,
I just don't
when's the
like
last time
that.
you even had dinner with your kids?
That's what I'm saying. It's like you really needed to have a fucking family meeting and get Noah's ass over there too, and been like, "Hey, we need to talk about all of this because you know, yeah, there's a lot going on."
Break
And
Noah out of the delinquent center or wherever the
yeah,
fuck he is. I love to think that he's like a juvenile delinquent. They
because
like
is
send
he
him away
off
to
in
the
college? Is that what we're led to believe?
they never
Okay, I can't
explain
remember.
exactly where he is.
Yeah,
I think one time
Yeah.
In like episode 150, maybe 200, they say Noah's off at school. But you
Okay.
know what? That could mean a million different
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
right? Like what kind of school is it? But anyway, I just love to think of him as like a troubled teen.
Yeah. He's like in reform school, juvenile
Yeah.
hall
Yeah. Okay.
with Bubba Higgins from Mama's Family.
Speaking of their children, Kay shows up with the rest of the kids, Simone, uh, those other two, Miguel and Charity.
There we go.
Shows up with them at the house and asks what's going on here. Because, like you said, she just caught her mom kissing David
Yeah.
Hastings in the kitchen underneath the mistletoe last night. No, but really, she just caught her mom kissing this guy, and now she's alone with this guy again. What's going on here? And Kay has a little bit of an attitude, and Grace says, Kay, there's no need to be rude to him.
I I was so mad at that. I'm just like, you know what she knows about you? Like, does she hasn't told Jessica anything. So I don't know why you're poking a bear right now. You should just be like, I don't know. There were so many other ways to handle
I don't know.
this attitude that Kay's giving, and rightfully so. Why
Yeah,
wouldn't she be mad at that guy hanging out with her mom?
she's a disgruntled teenager, and
Yeah,
she's rightfully disgruntled towards her mom at this point. But yeah, so the kids show up, and then David decides, "Oh, Grace, I'll take you to the train station." Kay says, "My mom can get a taxi. She
yeah,
doesn't
I
need you
love
to
that.
take her." But then, which is the same thing Grace had said to him when he offered. She was like, "No, I'll
Yeah,
get a taxi." But then when Kay says it, she's like, "No, it's fine," and she lets him take her to the train station. So
yeah,
I don't know. Grace is. I know I just said she's lovely, but she also is ugh too.
yeah.
Two things can be true.
Yes, exactly.
Um, so they go to the train station. David spends more time just ginning up more and more of Grace's insecurities as they pertain to Ivy specifically. I there's they just go back and forth with him saying Ivy's the true priority in Sam's life. I can't believe he's not here yet. He
Yeah.
just stays there. He lingers with her.
Oh,
He
and she even
lingers.
is, yeah, she's like, hey, at some point, like, hey, why don't you just go ahead and go? I'm sure Sam will join me soon. Like, you can leave. And he's like, I have nothing better to do. He basically says something like, yeah, I'm good. I'll hang out
But
here.
I thought you had like an important photo shoot.
Yeah,
I thought you had to
go
get the fuck
home.
out of town.
Yeah.
What happened to that? So yeah, they hang out at the train station, going back and forth. David talks about how Grace has sacrificed um having dinner with him. He says, "You've sacrificed having dinner with me to learn about your past, to go on this trip with Sam. And what has he sacrificed? Nothing. Look at him. He's at the hospital with his former lover and their love child."
I'd have
I
been like,
thought you loved this woman. I thought you
yeah,
loved Grace. Why would you be saying such mean, nasty, horrible things to her?
yeah. Well, I also would have been like, I've seen this man risk his life for my kids thousands of times, gone into a closet, like trying to go into the closet of fires of hell. Like, you don't know what he's sacrificed.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Grace doesn't stand up for Sam enough, I don't think.
Yeah. He does it. I mean, eventually, because they keep having this back and forth, and it gets really annoying because all it is him bad mouthing Sam and putting more doubt into her. But Grace does defend Sam a decent amount, and to the point where she gets aggravated with him. And I was impressed by that. I was like, okay, good. But like you said, it's not. Look how long it took for her to finally like say, "Will you shut up? Like, will you stop?" It took a long time to get here.
Well, and we see that his machinations are beginning to work on her
Hmm.
because she's sitting there and she starts to reminisce and think about all of the times that she's seen Sam and Ivy together. She thinks about the things he said to her at the hospital. Remember that he said to Ivy, "I never stopped loving you, Ivy, not even for a minute." And I
When
will
she got
be
struck by that lightning. Yep.
I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna hold y'all. That would haunt me.
Oh yeah.
That would fucking haunt me. There's just not a way my marriage would survive that shit. I'm too I'm too jealous, too narcissistic. I wouldn't be able to deal with it. It would haunt the fuck out of me if I watched my husband say to his first love, I never stopped loving you, not for a minute, divorce immediately. Oh, we don't even have to get divorced. You know
Yeah.
what? We're not even like they're not
Yeah.
even really married. So allegedly, according to the show.
Yeah.
But yes, no, so she's thinking about those moments that were really hurtful to her.
Yeah.
Understandably so, very, very hurtful. So David's plans are working. That they
Yeah.
are working.
At least planting seeds of doubt. That's
Mm-hmm.
what he's there for.
So now let's go to the hospital. Sam gets to the hospital. He talks to Eve, and Eve tells him, "Yeah, Ivy's gonna be fine as soon as she wakes up," basically. And then he walks into Ivy's cubicle where Ethan and Teresa are having their own thing going on.
Yeah.
And when Ethan sees Sam, he goes, "Dad!"
It
Oh,
was a very heartfelt moment. Like the music changes, it swells. Sam's like, well, Ethan apologizes right away, and Sam's like, "No, no, I'm actually happy you called me dad. Like, what's
yeah,
going on? How's it going?" And it just was really a good moment to go from him loathing Sam Bennett,
yeah.
I hate Sam Bennett, to like my
They've come a long
mom's
way.
something's going on with my mom. I'm already vulnerable. Then you see your dad.
He's my dad. My heart.
Yeah,
My heart. It started to melt. I was like, because he lit up. He
yeah,
saw Sam coming in. He went, "Dad." And it was just so sweet. And Sam, and you could see the look on Sam's face. He was elated to
oh
hear
yeah.
him call him dad. It was just so
Good
sweet.
acting by both of them. And I
Yeah,
always compliment the good acting every once in a while when there's a good mountain. That was a really nice moment.
it
Really
was so
pretty.
sweet. So they talk about some things. It's not that important. After his conversation with Ethan and Teresa, he goes back out and he talks to Eve, and he's excited. He
Yes.
tells Eve that Ethan called me dad, and he's
And
so excited to tell
and even
Eve.
Eve is like, I heard. Like she was like happy for him. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, Eve's actually getting to enjoy herself this week.
Yeah. And he says, we're getting closer. I can tell we're getting closer. And it was just really, really,
Yeah.
it was a really nice, lovely, heartfelt moment stuck right in the middle of all this mess this week. And so then he talks to Pilar. And then
Well,
my face changed.
yes, Sam and Ethan did have time to compare notes. They were like, "What did Pilar say? This is weird. I don't know what she's talking about. Like, I'm good." So they had that conversation as
Yeah, when
well.
he gets there, he's like, "You all right?" And Ethan's like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Like, I thought you were
Yeah,
coming to check on mom. Like, I'm
yeah.
fine."
And Ethan's like, Pilar probably misspoke, or you probably misunderstood Pilar. And they just
Yeah.
go, "Okay, cool." And until he finds Pilar.
Yeah, and then he goes and talks to Pilar, the great oracle. Why she talk?
Yeah,
He says
I
to her as
hate
much she's
it.
walking and talking in riddles.
Again,
Um,
I tried to defend her earlier. I just don't like that she's like, just say what's happening, because
yeah,
if you
say what you
really
need
need
to
Sam there, yeah,
say.
then say what's going on, and instead of talking all cryptic like,
Yeah, so he finds Pilar. He asks her why she was so worried about Ethan, and she tells him, "I can't tell you, but something might happen tonight, and if you're not here to stop it, Ethan's life will be destroyed." And Sam's like, "What are you taught? Like, give me more details, please." And she's like, "I can't." And then he says to her, "I have this really important trip with my wife, Grace, and I'm very worried that if I don't make it, that our marriage could end. That this is really important for our marriage. You know how hard that we've worked to get our marriage back on track." And he says, "So unless you can tell me why I need to be here, I'm gonna head over to the train station now." And she doesn't say anything. And he starts to walk away. He's like, "Okay, well, I'm leaving." And he starts to walk away. And um, she stops him saying, "You can't leave. If you do, you might get a call to come back here and arrest your son for murder." Oh my God.
I
And
know.
then she says, "I'm afraid that before this night is out, Ethan may commit murder." These are big statements, big
Yeah.
statements. And just to remind you, he just talked to Ethan and Ethan seems fine, right? So to Sam is like, okay, is Pilar nutting up or like is something really going on here? So he demands more information from her. He's becoming a little more demanding of her. Like, what are you talking about? Because imagine somebody saying to you,
Oh, as she should. I mean,
yeah,
like you're our friend. Like, then tell me what's going on. Like,
imagine somebody saying that to you. If you leave here tonight, your son will commit murder. What?
yeah, and then what upsets me also, again, the soap opera was always gonna soap opera. I would have just been, if I were Sam, I'd be like, hey, look, let me give Grace a call. I'm gonna get her ass over here. You're gonna explain what you're saying to me because already my if I have to pick between the two, then I need the two to come together. Why am I gonna have her ass wait over there? I know the trip's important. I guess it's life or death for this marriage. It's been through a shitload, but it happens to falter on this trip. But I would have gone, picked up Grace, been like, we can't. Something's going on over there. Pilar won't tell me. Maybe you will have a better, there's
There's
why
so
I'm being
many
logistical,
solutions.
but
No,
this is
no,
what
no.
we
This
do.
I love because I'm about to get logistical too, actually. And I already got logistical earlier when I was like, why aren't they fucking driving? And I'm about
Yeah.
to bring that up again. I'm gonna bring that up again because there are so many solutions to this, actually. What you just said is perfect, it's great. But also he could call Grace and say, hey, we're gonna have to push this back a little bit. And instead of taking the train, we can drive or see if we can get train tickets for a later train.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, there's a number of things we can do here. But also, on top of that, one, he's the chief of police. Take an extra day off.
Yeah.
Grace owns her business.
Yeah.
Take an extra day off. What
And
what is it
Kay's
for
the
y'all
one
to take
doing
an
all the
extra day
work.
off?
I
And
mean,
then
it's not Jessica's the
Jessica,
one that's doing all the work.
Jessica's doing all the work, and y'all don't talk to your children anyway. What's an extra day? What is an extra day? At this point, and it's nighttime right now anyway. It's not like y'all can't just go up in the morning.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just they make such a big deal out of catching this train.
Yeah.
And people miss trains all the fucking time.
Yeah.
People miss planes all the time. It's not the end of the world. It might seem like it sometimes if it happens to you. It happened to me one time. I missed my plane and I felt like the world was ending. But Delta was very nice and they put me on the very next plane for free. But yeah, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Yes, let's get logistical. Get in the
Okay.
car. Drive the car up the mountain like
Yeah.
you did the last time. So anyway, uh they don't do that. We just went down a very long road of hypotheticals. And that would be make more sense than what they did. Because what Sam does is he continues to just like go back and forth with Pilar for a while, and then she just continues to be very vague with him. And so Sam says, well, let me go talk to Ethan again. So he goes to talk to Ethan. He's like, hey, there isn't any reason you would murder anybody tonight, is there? Like, nope. He's like, you're not
Yeah.
mad at anybody. There's nobody who's upset you lately. He's like, well, Julian's been more irritating than he was before, but I'm not gonna murder him for it.
Yeah.
And then Sam's like, great, sounds good, walks away. And then Ethan looks off into the distance and he says, unless someone hurt Teresa.
Oh
Uh-oh.
my God. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So Sam goes back to Pilar's like, see, there's no problem. There's no problem. Can I please leave? I don't know why he wouldn't just leave though. That was
Yeah.
my thing too. At a certain point, you're a big boy. You don't
And I
you
think
don't need
that's,
Pilar's
yeah,
permission to leave.
that would have been perfectly like acceptable for him to be like, you're not telling me anything. I have to go. Grace is waiting for me. Also, I'm not gonna let my wife in a train station by herself. Like,
I came, I saw, I assessed the situation. Everything seems fine here. And also, not for nothing. I know David said this earlier, but I'm gonna say it too. Ethan is a grown ass man. Like
yeah.
Ethan's a grown man. You're not gonna change his choices. You know what I mean? He doesn't necessarily need his daddy there to keep
Hmm.
him, hopefully, to keep him from committing murder. I feel like
Yeah.
I sounded like Moira Rose right there when I said
Murder.
murder.
You did.
David.
But Sam, Ethan is your baby.
Yeah, so anyway, Sam then goes to talk to Teresa because he's like, okay, if Pilar won't tell me what's going on, you know what?
Hmm.
There's one person in this hospital who, if something does happen, she should be able to calm him down, basically.
Yeah.
Not understanding that she is the root will be the root cause if anything
Yeah.
comes out. So he goes to talk to Teresa. He says, your mom seems to think some kind of big secret's going to come out tonight. And she goes, no, it can't. It's like, this girl has no poker face.
I know.
This girl has no poker face.
I know
Don't,
if you're not watching the if you are not watching the podcast, those noises made no sense.
no,
But
yeah, you got to
it's
look
all
at
that
it.
quivery, like her eyes are. I don't. That girl, her tear ducts. If she just like Julie Andrews might have had her voice insured, Lindsay Hartley better have those tear ducts insured because
Her
man,
tear
those are
ducts have to be the size of pennies.
yeah,
Like,
they are on full blast all the time.
yeah, I don't know how she gets her eyes to water like that so
Yes,
fast.
damn.
Yeah, it's impressive. So anyway, he talks to Teresa. Teresa starts to get like a little bit panicky, and then he explains, well, I if anything happens, you will be able to calm Ethan down. And she's like, I would never do anything to hurt Ethan. Everything's gonna be fine. Don't you worry. Uh, He's like, okay, that's all I need to know.
Yeah,
Because she's like, I love Ethan more than anything. I would never let anything bad happen to him.
yeah,
Okay. So that's when Sam is like, okay, I'm leaving. That's it. I have to leave. And so, oh, and Teresa also says, I will do everything in my power to prevent Ethan from getting hurt,
yeah,
which alludes to what she is in there doing right now.
yeah.
We will talk about what the fuck Teresa is doing. Because she is up to some shit. So Sam feels better about this whole thing and he leaves. He heads off to the train station and he uses his like um squad car and the sirens and everything to try and get there as fast as he can. So that's where we leave it. We don't see him get to the train station.
No.
I imagine they're gonna miss the train because
Yeah.
he calls Grace at one point, or she calls him to see where he is, and he's like, I'm still at the hospital, but I'm leaving now. And she's like, you're still at the hospital? Oh my goodness, the train is boarding. We're gonna miss it. So I don't think
Then
they're
we
gonna make
miss
this
it.
train.
Then we miss it.
We miss it, we miss it. I mean, I get again how disappointing it is to especially to miss like a ticketed event that you have, a train, a plane, or a concert or anything. But yeah, there will be another train. And like I said, y'all have cars.
Yeah.
Y'all have cars. So life is a highway. Ride it all night long.
That's right.
Lion.
Again, I don't know. I think they have other things to worry about, like the construction of their new home versus going on a trip right now. But
Also, constructing your home on that hell site, that seems crazy to me.
they love
You-
their neighbor, Tabitha Lennox. They would never want to leave her.
I would have to
They
sell
love
that
the
land.
neighbor.
I would have to sell that land. I know it'll probably go for well, you might be able to find some supernatural people, people who are into supernatural things and sell it for a good price.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to sell that land and use my insurance money to build elsewhere. Maybe Castleton, perhaps.
Yeah.
Let's move out of Harmony.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got anything else to add to that nonsense?
No.
No.
Not with Grace. No.
All right, so let's move on to Teresa, Ethan. I would say Gwen, but she is barely in this.
Just a
It's
little
really
bit.
Teresa, Ethan,
Yeah.
Julian.
Yeah.
Is what it really is. So remember, last week, our lovable lunatic beat Ivy's wheelchair to hell, disabled it, disabled the phone in her room, and told her, I'm going to marry Ethan. We're going to go elope. We're never going to come back to this evil house. And there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it because by the time you can tell him that I'm married to Julian, because remember, Ivy now has the marriage certificate.
Yeah.
By the time you can tell him that I'm married to Julian, he and I will already be married and he will never, ever, ever divorce me because he believes in marriage and he believes that marriage is forever.
Yeah.
Okay, girl. I mean, I
I think that
mean,
for someone who's all about like I don't know, she just it frustrates me that she brings that up throughout the week is that she's like once I get him like it just I don't know, it just puts her on the level of like but like you're the one that's like you don't want to start off things with dishonesty and all this stuff, and like that's like you're like putting all your eggs in one basket. It's like as long as we're married, he won't leave me.
It's also just such a nonsense fallacy because
Yeah,
imagine that everybody has their breaking point for something,
yeah,
right? Everybody has a deal breaker, right?
yeah,
And whether I believe in the sanctity of marriage or not, like if you are a murderer and I find out that you are a murderer and I didn't know you were a murderer when I married you, yeah,
yeah,
I'm getting a divorce.
yeah.
Even if no, I don't care how religious I am. I'm not gonna live in a house with a murderer. Right? And
Yeah,
hopefully, I mean, I'm not going to be married to some murderer who's in prison, you
yeah.
know? No, she has abused his mother at this point,
I know. That's the yeah,
and that would be all it took for me.
yeah. Me
Let
too.
alone, I think I said this last week, let alone the marriage to Julian, my
Yeah,
one-time father, the man who raised me.
yeah.
No, girl, you crazy if you think that that man won't even think about divorcing you after hearing about what you have done. You are out of your
And it
mind.
just, yeah, that whole thing. I mean, we talked about it last week, but again, it just really frustrates me. And that, like Teresa, you're playing right into what who Ivy thinks you are.
Mhm.
Um,
Desperation. It's the
yeah.
desperation.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Ivy is dragging herself through this mansion. Teresa has caught up with Ethan, but Harper is trying to get her to like sign these papers, and then she lies because Ethan's like, "Why does Harper want you to sign some papers?" And she says, "Oh," and I mean, this girl lies like a rug. She says to him, "Oh." No, they don't want me to sign the papers. They want me to curry the papers over to Crane Industries. They wanted me to deliver them to Industries. I don't know what they are. You know, I just work in the
Yeah.
mansion. Do you work in the mansion?
Yeah, because I thought they let her go a long time ago after she was Ivy's assistant.
Why would they be having you? But again, Ethan buys the shit hook, line, and sinker. He's so dumb. Meanwhile, and this is all so convoluted because like we still have
There's
like the
so
wedding
much
going
going on.
on,
Yes.
and Julian and Harper and Ethan and Teresa are all kind of doing their own thing with these papers. But over at the altar, there's also Rebecca and Gwen, and Rebecca's got her gun and she's waiting for Julian to come back to her to so they can get married. And then we also have Tim dressed as the rabbi standing up there waiting to do his thing, you know, and
Yeah.
there's a lot going on. And Gwen and Rebecca are having their little side conversation about Gwen trying to talk some sense into her mother. Like, do you really want to, are you really going to shoot him? Are you really going to kill
Ex-
him? And she just
and she,
keeps
and
reiterating, yes, I'm going to kill
yes.
him if he doesn't
And
marry me
Rebecca keeps
today.
flashing that gun around like in plain sight, first of all, which is always funny, right? But in plain sight. But Rebecca's like, you might shoot Ethan. Like, will you just put that shit away? And she's like,
Hmm.
well, I'm just trying to make sure. And she just keeps flashing the gun to Julian, and Julian has to keep reconciling with the fact that there is a gun aimed at him right now.
Yeah. So, yes, Teresa lies her ass off. Julian looks at Harper and whispers, she lies just like a crane. Too bad
Yeah.
I can't keep her as my wife. And so Teresa then tells Ethan, you know what? I want to leave here. Let's elope. Let's leave right now. Let's just go get married. And that's when Julian stops them and is like, no, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't. And Ethan's like, wait a minute. What do you care? Why can't we get
So
married?
much of this stuff.
And
Yeah.
he says, you know, Teresa's the kind of girl who wants to have a big wedding, beautiful things, da 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 da. Well, of course, it's because she hasn't signed the annulment papers yet. They can't leave until she signs the annulment papers. Um, but Ivy finally gets down the stairs, starts getting down the stairs. Uh, and that's when Ethan's like, you know what? I want to go check on mother before we go to elope.
Yeah.
Let me go check on mother. I know you and her made up. I don't know what led him to believe that. I guess because he left the two of them alone and told them to make up, and
And
so he
Teresa
thought that it
came back in
happened.
one piece.
Yeah, I guess so. He thought that it happened, but I don't even think at any point even Teresa was like, "Yeah, everything's cool." I
No,
think
no,
she,
she never. Yeah.
yeah. So he's about to go try and find his mom, or not try and find, he knows exactly where she's supposed to be. Go find his mom. And then a servant, a maid, sees Ivy
Yeah.
passed out at the bottom of the staircase because she has crawled her way all the way down the stairs. and she passes out, and the maid starts screaming, "Oh my God, this is and everything kind of stops at that point. And
Yeah.
luckily for Teresa, Ivy has passed out, but she's still kind of like, just like mumbling something.
And again, I don't understand why she didn't scream at some point while she was up there. Somebody could have heard her. There were a shitload of people down in the foyer or wherever that is. Before Ivy comes in, Rebecca has been trying to get everybody back into I guess, the ballroom or like the living room area. And she had threatened Julian. She said, "I'm gonna blow a hole in you so big you could drive a truck through it." Um, when this happens, and it makes me laugh because she's trying to get everybody lined up, and Timmy is getting ready to prepare everything. But I'm also like, at the end of the day, Timmy's not an officiant. Like, would they find out eventually that Timmy was not an ordained like rabbi or like I don't know
I
how
don't
that works,
know.
but I thought about that. It was
I
like
have
she still wouldn't be Mrs. Julian Crane at the end of
We
the
will
day.
never know how
Yeah.
this ceremony would
How
have gone because when all the commotion happens with Ivy,
yeah.
Tabitha dressed as a chauffeur and Timmy are like at like the hors d'oeuvres table, and a lady walks over and says, "Do you know what's going on with Ivy Crane? What's going on? What's wrong with her?" And Tabitha starts this rumor that she says, "I don't know what it is, but I heard it's contagious." We were
And
just about to get out of here, and
yeah.
everybody just clears out because the
Uh,
rumor spreads like wildfire.
It was so funny. And again, Tabitha's like stealing all the food. Timmy's stealing like this gold and silverware. It's just it's
It was
so
fun.
camp.
It
It's
was
camp.
it was fun when she spread the rumor that like, oh, I don't know, but I hear it's
And then you
contagious.
see them each tell somebody something, like the
Yeah.
rumor. You see it come alive. It was cute.
And so they all the guests leave to much to Rebecca's dismay. She comes back in, she's like,
Yeah.
"Where the hell is everybody? Where did everybody go?" And then she realizes that even her officiant is gone. She's like, "What? We have to get married. Like, how are we gonna get married without, anybody
Yeah.
here?" Meanwhile, the paramedics show up, pick up Ivy, take her to the hospital. She does have that marriage certificate in her hand, but now it's balled. Why would she ball it up like that? For the
Yeah.
plot, Tara, for the plot. She
Yeah.
balled it up for the plot. It's stupid, but it
I
is what it
know.
is. It's balled up so tightly that you can't even see that she has it in her hand except for a little bit poking out under like from where her pinky is.
And and just to note, there is a lot of moments where like Teresa checks Ivy's pulse in order to get the thing, and she isn't able to get to it. Gwen's the one that finally calls 911 for the paramedics to get there.
Yeah, Gwen
But
calls the
yeah,
paramedics of
yeah,
all
because
people.
everybody's like, didn't somebody call Dr. Eve Russell? Well, what was she gonna do? Helicopter out of there? Like, no, like. So anyway, Gwen did finally call 911. But yeah, they keep doing that. Like, what's in her hand? How do you get that thing out of her hand? It does that until they finally get her. At one point, to Pilar gets down there, and they were like, Pilar's like, "Oh my God, I found her. I've been trying to find help." Well, something like that. But then when she reconvenes with Teresa, Teresa she does tell, I saw what you did to Ivy's wheelchair. Like, so she tries to like reprimand her and be like, "I don't understand how you got here."
Yeah.
So
Pilar again with the judgmentalness, with the judgment. Pilar with the fucking judgment. Like, bitch, except the rest of us, Teresa didn't see it, but we all saw you drag Ivy across the floor of her bedroom. We saw you drag that
that's true.
paraplegic woman whom you've been friends with for over half your lives, dragging her across the floor. But Teresa's the fucked up one. So,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
she is.
After
She is. Don't get me wrong. She
yeah,
is. I am not making excuses for Teresa, but for Pilar to be the one looking at her with judgment in her eyes is wild to me.
well
Girl, we
maybe
are
she.
in this together. We're
Well,
all
yeah.
in this together. Yeah, you and I are doing this
Well,
together to Ivy.
yeah, she get it from her mama.
Yeah.
I think Pilar. I think once she said to me, once she said, "You owe me some loyalty," I think that's when Pilar was like, "What did you say?"
Yeah, I mean, Pilar is actually a G, like for real. Like she really is a G, but when it comes to her kids,
Yeah,
specifically Teresa, she's so judgmental. But
yeah.
girl, I'm realizing your children have learned from you. I'm sorry. Teresa learned from Pilar. She saw how her mom can keep a secret. She saw how her mother is down for the people she loves, you know what I mean, and will
Yeah.
do anything for them. Yeah, nah, that's and the way and the way that Pilar is like, I hate to use the word obsessed, but the way that Pilar is like so stuck on Martin and has
Yeah.
been for so long, which I is somewhat understandable. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, but we do see later on when Martin. I'm the spoiler alert.
When
Martin
something
eventually,
happens.
eventually Martin shows back up. If you didn't know that, I don't know what to tell you. Eventually, Martin shows back up, and Pilar is still down bad for that man after all the shit that he put her through.
Yeah.
So, and Teresa is similar. She's like her mama.
Yeah.
She is, like you said, get her from her mama.
Well,
So
I will. I
anyway,
will. I
oh,
know all of this stuff. I was to say, I know all this stuff is happening in that in the foyer or where of at the very entrance of the mansion. But at some point, I was laughing because so much action is happening between all these different groups of people. And if you look closely in the background, Tabitha and Timmy are just standing there in the
yeah.
middle of it. And I'm as a director, I'm looking at it going, who did not have the common decency to like? They even put Timmy up a level so that Timmy could see behind that like muffin type seating place that's in the center of it. And I was like, it was just so funny to like watch them watch the action in their costumes. And
I
they
think
have
the I
that.
think and I think the point is that Tabitha and Timmy are always watching from somewhere, and they
Yes,
just
yeah.
happen to be in the middle of it this time, and there was no fucking way Tabitha was gonna not be there to
Oh
watch
yeah.
all of the pain and suffering that was about
Yeah,
to
because
happen.
even when they went to the hors d'oeuvres to go get them, Timmy's like, Princess, like, should we be like watching that? She goes, oh, I promise you, as soon as Ivy says what she has to say, we're gonna hear the scream and we'll know when it's time to go watch. But it was, she was like, I need some food.
Yeah. So let's talk about what happens once Ivy leaves. First of
Mhm.
all, Ethan goes to the hospital with Ivy. Teresa says, I'll meet you there. Julian and Alistair, not Julian and Alistair, sorry, Julian and Harper corner Teresa and like, you need to sign these papers right now. And then Teresa's like, oh no, Rebecca's watching. And they are so conspicuous. It's all so
Yes.
suspicious. And from across the room, Rebecca is like brandishing her gun at Julian and like eyeing them. And Gwen's just kind of there. And so what's her name says, I can't do it now. Here was my thing, and I'm gonna get logistical again on y'all. I know, whatever. Why wouldn't Harper just walk Teresa out? Why wouldn't he be like, I'm going to walk you out, Teresa,
Yeah.
and then hand her the papers and either have her sign them outside or let her take them with her, sign them and bring them back, which that would be a logistical nightmare, honestly. Like, just sign them. Just take her outside, let her sign them, and then she can go on about her business and it's done. It's done.
Yeah.
He's bad at his job. Everybody in this town's bad at their job. But Harper's very, very bad at his job as well. Like I want to make that clear. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
He has made that clear to me. Because why can't your sharp legal mind figure out how to get these papers to this girl in a not inconspicuous way?
Yeah.
Why can't you think, oh, why don't I just follow you and hand these little, it's just the paper and it's
Yeah.
folded. I don't know. Anyway, Teresa's like, no, I can't sign it now. I'll come back later. Okay. Okay, but your plan is to elope with Ethan tonight.
Yeah.
My baby, Ethan's brain not working good has rubbed off on her. Now
Yeah.
her brain's not working good.
She's it's a mess.
Brain don't work good. I'm gonna say that. The brains aren't working. Okay. So she heads off to the hospital. So let's talk about what's going on at the hospital. At the hospital, Ivy is in her bed. She's like passed out, but she's still mumbling, and she keeps mumbling, Teresa, Julian, Teresa, Julian. Ethan looks at her, turns around and looks at Teresa and's like, Mother keeps saying your name and Julian's name. I wonder why. I
I don't
wonder
know.
why.
I know. I really would have. I'm sorry. I harp on things. I am a harper, and like if I heard my mom saying my girlfriend's name, my fiance's name, and my this guy who's pretty much a lecher's name, like wouldn't you just be like, I'm gonna be on edge. He's not even on edge. He's just like, how weird, right? What a weird combination of names. Like
Yeah.
I would just be on edge.
I would
Also,
I wouldn't
I
let
think
it
I would have.
go.
Yeah, I also would have seen the fucking piece of paper in her hand.
Yeah, she's holding the paper in her hand. Nobody knows it's there except for basically Teresa.
Yeah.
So she Ethan's trying to figure out why she keeps saying their names together, but he's so dumb that he says, "Yes, mother, you're right. Teresa is here." And when Ivy hears that, because Ivy can hear everything that's going on, we hear her voiceover in her head, but
It's
she's still asleep.
hysterical too, by the way. The
It,
voiceovers are hysterical.
it really is. And so he hears her say, "Yes, you're right. Teresa is here." And her heart rate starts to go up like really fast. And he looks at, he's like, "Look, Teresa, mother's heart rate went up when I mentioned you. That means that she knows you're here. She's so glad that you're here." Why is he so
Ah,
stupid?
I laughed so damn hard. Laughed so damn hard.
She's happy that you're here,
EKG is
Teresa.
going. It's going off the charts, and no, she loves you.
She's happy.
No,
She's so happy you're here. She's gonna have a heart attack. Like she's having an arrhythmia. What? No. Okay,
yeah.
so anyway, Ethan is stupid and he says that. Then Pilar like pulls Teresa aside, does some more of her judgmental stuff. Says, tries to tell her that she needs to be honest. And when Ivy wakes up, she's gonna tell Ethan regardless of whether you get the paper away from her or not. So what
And
does it
again, that
matter?
like I'm like you have like I get what Pilar's trying to do here because she says all you've done is postpone the inevitable. She's gonna do it at some point, Teresa, and I think that that is like motherly advice. I'm gonna defend her in that. Again, you can
Somebody's got to
all of
do
that
it.
aside, right? But
Somebody's got
like
to do it.
she is incapacitated. She can't do anything. You can be the, and this is probably like Whitney advice too, right? Like Whitney's told Teresa, like, hey, if you say it now, you're in charge of the narrative. Like you can say what is the truth is that Julian got you drunk. Julian did all this stuff. And I think what your mom has over there is this. I've been trying like crazy to get this annulled, and I'm sorry. Like, there's so many ways to do this, but yeah, all she is doing is postponing the inevitable. Because
There.
again, the plan is get him married, and he has to be with me forever. And again, it's the same thing as like having a baby, doing all that thing to like trap somebody. You can't trap anybody. I mean,
And how happy do you think your marriage is going to be if
that's
Ethan
the
feels
thing.
like you tricked him into marrying
Yep.
you and because you felt like he would never divorce you and then he finds out that you abused his mother and married his
Yeah.
father?
And in what world exactly? Yeah, for real. And in what world is somebody going to be like, my mom may be okay. She's probably going to regain consciousness soon, but she is in a hospital bed, and I'm going to go elope real quick. Oh,
Yes,
she
wait a
even.
minute. So
Yeah, go
so
ahead.
okay. Okay. Pilar talks to Teresa, tries to talk a little bit of sense into her a little bit. But Teresa says, "No, I'm gonna marry him tonight, and it doesn't matter because once he's married to me, he will never be able to leave me because we are bonded forever." And so then she goes in to talk to Ethan. Is like, "I just had the most wonderful idea, Ethan." I mean, she's smiling. She's ugh, it was gross. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I wrote this. It irked me. I think that's what yeah, it irked me.
"I just had the most wonderful idea, Ethan. Since your mother was so excited that I'm here and that we should get married tonight, let's elope. And by the time we come back, when she's awake, she'll be happy that, or I think actually what it was when we come back and tell her that we got married, she will wake up because she will be so happy." That's what that's where the logic was.
If Ivy could have right then and there, she would have flatlined just to like show that this is not what I want. I mean, like,
Oh, this is not what I want.
and again, you hear Ivy's voiceovers are hysterical. She's like, "No!" Like she she doing her best to voice act the shit out of that. It's
Yeah.
really great noises that you're hearing come out of Ivy's brain.
Yeah,
Over my, I mean, I was gonna say she says over my dead body, but I don't think she would
she
because
says something like that, something
yeah,
to that effect. And
yeah,
yeah, she says a lot of stuff. "You lying slut, when I wake
yeah,
up." Yeah. Oh yeah. "You will never marry my son." Yeah, she's saying a lot of stuff in her head.
yeah.
So Teresa says that Ethan, rightfully, his brain is working for this little moment, He says to her, my mom's in a hospital bed. I don't really feel right about leaving her here to go get married. And also, weren't you the one that wanted to have like a nice wedding with all of our family? And I wouldn't feel right about getting married without my mom there, especially with her being in this state. And
Yeah.
I want to make sure he also says to her, I want you to have the wedding of your dreams, the one that
Yeah.
you want. And you have said to me repeatedly that you really want your family to be there. Because remember, she was saying that as a stalling tactic
Yeah.
to Ethan so that she had time to get her annulment. And now the tables have kind of turned and she's
Yeah.
saying let's elope and he's saying no,
Get it
let's
done. Yeah.
let's do it the way that you originally wanted to do it because I know that's how you really want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just briefly, I don't know if you're okay if I mention this, but
Mhm.
Alistair gives Julian a phone call. Um,
Yes. We got to talk
so
about that.
yeah, I mean it's very brief too, but now we do know that Alistair knows that Teresa and Julian got married.
Alistair calls Julian 2 times. Yeah,
Yes.
and the first time he does tell him he's furious about the marriage to Teresa. He orders Julian to get an annulment and marry Rebecca immediately, or there will be hell to pay Julian.
Yeah.
And he also says, and you need to shut Ivy up for good. He said, gag that bitch. That's what he said. That's
Yes.
not what I said. I know that
No,
sounds
yeah,
like some shit
yeah.
I would say, but that's what Alistair said. He said, gag that bitch. Oh
I
my
wanted to bring it up,
God.
but I was like, I don't want to be the one to say it, but I'm happy you. But yes, it was him. And then, I mean, he also says, "It's like if they don't kill you, I will kill you myself." I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like he's like really, and also he like phallically is playing with this like model cannon, this golden little miniature model cannon at some
Mm.
point. And he's like cleaning it and loading it, and then he like shoots it off. I'm like, I was like, I wonder who sits there and brainstorms what do we give Alistair to do today? Because
Yes,
they have him
whose job is
pacing back
that?
and they have him pacing back and forth. They have him, he's always got like a baseball and a glove. He's
Yeah.
always smoking something. It
He's
always
always got a
fascinates me.
prop. He's
Yeah,
always got a
he's,
prop.
he's always working on. He just have nothing to do, man. He is living the best life, just
The
fucking like playing with little toys and shit.
Yeah. 50% of the prop master's job on this show is just getting props for Alistair. Something new for him to play with every week
Yeah,
or every day. Yeah, so he calls Julian, tells him to gag on
yeah,
reference to Ivy, gag that bitch or find another way to silence her. She's been a thorn in our side for far too long. He says, do whatever it takes. Do whatever
yeah,
it takes. Yikes.
yeah,
So yes, so that's going on. And Sam shows up. We already kind of talked about what
yeah.
happens when Sam comes, so I'm gonna skip it. Let me make sure that there's nothing here that we didn't talk about. Nope. He does wonder why Ivy was trying so desperately to get down the stairs.
Yeah.
And then Ethan says, "Oh, I know why. She really wanted to stop Julian and Rebecca's wedding because they are
Oh,
because she's contesting the
yeah.
divorce." And now you know what? For Ethan, because sometimes he comes up with some outlandish shit. That one
That
was
was
like, I was
pretty
like,
on
yeah.
par.
Yeah, I
That
was
could
like, you know
be, yeah,
what? That's reasonable. That's a reasonable thought to like why she would be clawing to get down the stairs. So then Sam leaves and Ethan leaves to call. He says, I need to call my half sisters and half brother to let them know what's going on. First of all, would never. I would like, I don't know. Maybe it's because they didn't grow up together, but it's just so weird to be like my half sister. Like that's your sister. Those are your sisters
yeah.
and your brothers. That's to me, that's just odd to be like my half sister, my half brother. It's almost like
I don't
saying my
know.
stepsister, my step
I
brother.
don't know if I don't know if that's a white people thing.
I guess maybe. I don't know. I'm not white. I don't
But to me,
know.
it's like I mean, even my second cousins are just my cousins. I mean, like
Yeah, that's my
yeah,
cousin.
like
Yeah. I don't
yeah.
know.
But yeah, I think well, and it's also funny because I'm like, wait, have you ever talked to Noah?
Right. And also, like, why do you need to call them to tell them what's going on with Ivy? Why do they need to know? Why is it important to them? As far as they are concerned, she is the woman who tried to break up their parents' marriage. Why do they care? Like, you're gonna call them for sympathy?
Yeah,
Because why do they care?
yeah.
Um, but then Teresa asks Eve if it's okay that she sits with Ivy for a little longer. And Eve's like, yeah, sure, I don't see why not. And Pilar, and she says it so sweetly, like, is it okay if I just sit with Mrs. Crane a little longer, just to hopefully lift her spirits? And he's like, yeah, I don't see why not, honey. Pilar gives her the nastiest look, and she leaves in silent disgust. Which,
Yeah.
girl, say something. Say something.
Yeah.
What it would she's not gonna anyway, she's not gonna say anything.
Yeah.
Um, like, you could stop whatever's going on
Yeah.
if
That's
you
what-
really were so disgusted by what was going on. But
Yeah.
anyway,
This.
I'm gonna go on.
Yeah. Teresa uses this time to explain to an unconscious Ivy like everything that happened. As she's trying to like pry that fucking paper
Yeah.
out of her hands.
She's trying to pry the certificate out of Ivy's hand, which, let me be clear, there is no universe where a passed out person would be clutching something so tightly that a grown woman in full and
Awake.
complete
Yeah.
in complete use of my faculties would not be able to pull their fingers back one by one and get that shit out of there. It just doesn't make any sense. But I guess the show is trying to make us believe that Ivy has like a death grip on this thing.
Yeah.
She will not let it go, even in her unconscious state. Her conscious state is like all of a sudden she can control, she can hear what's going on, she can respond in her head, and she can control her body too. Wake up.
I really was hoping that we'd get like a little Tweety Bird bit where Teresa's like, this little piggy went to market, this little piggy stayed home, this
Yeah.
little piggy had roast meat.
Yeah, and get it out of there. I don't know why she can't
Yeah.
get it out of there, but she can't. And
Maybe.
this is when Julian shows up to the hospital. And Julian corners Teresa and says she needs to sign the annulment papers, but Teresa turns the tables.
Very smart.
This was smart. She said, I'm not signing anything
Shit.
until, because if even if I get this annulment from you, what does it matter? You'll be off the hook, but Ivy will still tell everybody what happened and I'm still fucked. So I'm not signing shit so that you and I are both going to be in shit. I'm not signing anything until you go in there and you get that thing out of Ivy's hands and you figure out a way to keep her from telling everybody.
I am laughing really hard because I'm like, imagine a world in which you wrote those lines for Teresa and that's actually what she said.
Yeah,
Fuck,
I'm
I
not
ain't
signing
signing
shit.
shit.
I'm not signing shit until you, yeah, until you,
But at least, yeah, that was very wise of her to be able to finally be like, I need your help.
well, and
Like,
she's like, somebody's got to be, you and I, for right now, you and I are in this shit together. If
yeah,
I sign those annulment papers, you no longer have any stake in helping me out of the situation that I am in because you have
yeah,
gotten what you wanted. So yeah. Then Julian then looks at like a sign in Ivy's
yes.
cubicle that says like oxygen,
Hi-
danger, do not
highly
do
flammable.
yeah, highly flammable, do not light an open flame in here, kind of like there's a sign. There's a
Yeah,
sign that says this. It's a fairly big sign. And he starts to his wheels start to turn and he's like he basically we understand after a little bit that he has this plan to blow Ivy and Teresa up.
yes. He's concocted a plan that
So
he's like, I
he,
think I can figure something out to get rid of those two.
yeah, I just figured out a way, to get rid of both of my problems here, right?
Yeah,
Um, so he tries to get Teresa to, take his lighter. He has a lighter. He says, "Here, take this and burn Ivy's hand with it, and that'll make her open her hand, and you'll be able to get the papers." Teresa is incredulous at the suggestion, which,
yeah,
you know what? I fair. It is quite a line to cross. Like, it's one thing to do harm to an object like a wheelchair. Is another thing to do physical harm to somebody's body. However, this is just an escalating event. If
yeah,
somebody can destroy your property in a violent way, they can do bodily harm to you. They have the capacity to do
yes,
so,
yeah,
and they aren't that far off from doing it.
yeah.
Um, So Teresa turns him down at first.
Yeah.
She turns him down at first. Um, then also around this time, she goes off to talk to Ethan. Then also Gwen and Rebecca show up to the hospital,
Yeah.
and uh, this is when Julian gets another phone call from Alistair, and Alistair
Yes.
tells him, "Get you need to get yourself out of this mess." And he says, "Get rid of Ivy." And then he says, "Better yet, get rid of all three problems: Ivy, Teresa, and Rebecca." Now we're just committing femicide. Now
Yeah.
we're just killing women for the fucking hell of it. Because
That's what I'm
this
saying.
man just loves to kill women. He wanted
Oh,
to
and
kill
I agree.
Sheridan.
Yeah,
He
that's
wanted
what I
to.
was gonna say. It upsets me because I'm like, wait, at some point someone's gonna look into this shit and be like, why are all these women who have some association with the Cranes gone missing? Because Catherine's gone, Sheridan's gone, and now three other women are gonna be gone. To all of them who which were going to be and are were married to Julian. Come
Mm-hmm.
on, y'all. This is and I know they got money up the wazoo, but that's a shitload of people that have passed away at the hands of them. So it's
So
just
it's
stupid.
just ridiculous. The idea of Alistair calling his son and telling him to murder three more women
Yeah.
is crazy. But that is exactly what
Yeah.
happened. And so then Rebecca sees Julian at the hospital. She goes over to him. She demands that she says, "I have the Crane jet fueled up and on the tarmac, ready to go so we can fly to Vegas and get married tonight." And she
Yeah.
says, "Either you marry me tonight, and if you refuse, if either you marry me tonight or I kill you. And when Sam asks me why I did it, I will tell him I made a gruesome discovery about you murdering your own sister. So either you marry me tonight or I kill you and I get away with it." That's what she says to him.
Yeah.
And it's at this point that Julian makes a last ditch effort to like get Teresa to go into Ivy's room with that lighter. Um, and she reluctantly agrees. Like, I don't know. He gives her the same speech. I don't know what made her change her mind. I guess she's just more desperate 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
I don't know. So she takes the lighter, she goes into the room, she's talking to Ivy, trying to talk to her before she burns her, trying to get her to just open her hand. Meanwhile, outside, uh Julian is talking to Rebecca again because they kind of came together, went apart, came together, went
Yeah.
apart. You know how it goes. Julian's talking to Rebecca again, and he says, or he sees Rebecca. He's not talking to her. He sees her. He says to Harper, "I just figured out a way to kill three wives with one cigarette lighter." Mm, mm. And I think it was supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. So Rebecca comes over to Julian. They talk, and he she says, "What's the deal, Julian?" And Julian says, "Bex, you were right in your suspicions. I have been delaying our marriage, but it's not my fault. The reason I can't marry you is because I'm already married to Teresa."
It is a
And
shocking revelation, like the idea that he just said, "I'm gonna say it," but it's because he thinks if I
well,
say it, yeah,
yeah, it's his plan
yeah,
is that his plan is, well, let me finish saying what he says to
yeah,
her, so and you will immediately figure out what the plan was. So he tells her, I'm already married to Teresa. And she has such a great response. She says, "Oh, Julian, I know you're capable of every morally unspeakable act, but please tell me you didn't."
yeah,
Like, this is the worst you could possibly do. I know you're capable. Like, she knows how capable he is of like the worst of the worst things, and
including
yet this is
murder.
still worse
Yeah,
somehow. But anyway, so then she goes crazy. She's beating him up. She's like, "How could you?" And
She
then she
threatens
pulls
to
out her
shoot his dick
gun.
off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she pulls out a gun and she aims it at first he's like, "You're not going to kill me." And she says, "No, I'm not going to kill you." And she aims it at little Julian
Yeah.
and she says, "You'll never two-time another woman again. Like I'm going to
Yeah,
shoot your
she
dick
says,
off."
"You and your overactive libido have played your last woman for a fool." I thought that was cool.
Well, he says, "No, no, no, no. You don't understand. It's not my fault." And then he paints Teresa as this scheming gold
Yep.
digger, which just confirms Rebecca's bias against
Yeah.
Teresa, right? He
Yep.
says, "She followed me to Bermuda. She honed in on my vulnerabilities. She was seeing that I was in a weakened state from pining for you, Rebecca. She poured on all her sympathy and charm, and she plied me with so much champagne." He really just turns around exactly what he did to Teresa and says that she victimized him in the same way. And he says, "And when we woke up, he was like, I didn't know who I was or where I was. I was so drunk. And the next morning, she was just waving around this marriage license. And now I don't remember a thing about it. I don't remember marrying her, but she won't give me a divorce until I sign over the entire Crane fortune to her." And then she's like, and she believes it because again,
Well,
he's confirming her bias, his
well,
confirmation bias.
and not to mention that she goes, "Are you serious?" And to which she says, "I swear on my own mother's grave."
I missed that.
Oh no, that was huge for me. He says, "I swear on my own mother's grave," and that I think the one thing I think we all have learned is that yes, he always had a little soft spot for Sheridan, but he definitely had a spot for Catherine, and so like that I think is where Rebecca goes into that. But I'm also like, how much has Rebecca painted a picture of Teresa that she believes the own picture she painted of Teresa over this man who she knows full well is capable of murder and other things? But yes, like you said, it confirmed her bias, and
Yeah,
that's
she
what she
already
goes
felt those
with.
things about
Yeah.
Teresa. She already felt those things about Teresa.
Yep.
I will say, she had also seen the annulment papers that Teresa had signed.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if you add that to this, it doesn't
Oh
actually make
yes.
sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually make sense. She
Yeah.
wouldn't give you an annulment, but she signed the annulment papers.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Yep.
But a lot of things don't make sense. There's a lot of people who vote against their own interests. You know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
one side will tell them one thing that doesn't
Yep.
necessarily make sense if you really think about it, but it sounds good enough to me, right? It
Yep.
confirms my biases.
Yep.
So anyway, he's like, she's like, where is the little tramp? Because now she's gonna go, I guess, presumably beat up Teresa.
Yeah.
And he says, "Oh, I don't know where she could be. Ivy's cubicle, perhaps." And so she goes to Ivy's cubicle, and just as she's getting into the cubicle, she goes, "What the hell?" And Teresa lights that flame on the lighter, and we see an explosion. I don't know how
Yeah.
big it is. I don't know um how much damage it did.
Yeah.
We don't know that.
Episode 600 ends with Rebecca going, "What the?"
Yep.
And that's it. An
Yep.
explosion.
I
Something
also
happened.
I also want to note that during all of this, Gwen takes some time. Poor Gwen, not like poor Gwen in like the character, but poor like Natalie, that
Yeah.
actress. She doesn't have shit to do in these
Yeah.
episodes. She
They
doesn't
give
have anything to do ever.
Yeah, they gave her one moment where, well, first of all, when they get there, they talk to Ethan, and she says something along the lines of like, "Ethan, please know I'm here for you, for your mom," and Rebecca goes, "I'm here for you too, Ethan," and Ethan straight up shoots her down and goes, "You despise my mother," and
Yeah.
walks away, and she says something like, "Whoa, he didn't have to get that huffy with me." But at some point, she has a conversation. Rebecca and Gwen have a conversation about like Gwen noticing Teresa being uneasy and nervous, and the way that Julian and Teresa and Ivy are acting. Gwen has like a renewed faith that she has an opportunity to strike and to strike right now. So that was
Yeah.
like the only real moment that she had of like getting like and Rebecca's like, "Oh my God, I'm so excited to see that you haven't given up. Like, let's do this." So
Yeah.
they had that one moment.
Yeah, and so Gwen does spend like the rest of the episodes after she says that to her mother we always see her next to Ethan
Yeah.
from that point on. She's
Yeah.
right there with him.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's it for all of that. You got anything to add?
No, just
No?
that stuff we brought up about Gwen. Yeah.
Well, now let's talk about the magic of it all. Let's talk about the magic of it all. There wasn't a lot. There was a few little fun things. Tabitha and Timmy have been we're at the mansion for a good chunk of the week.
Yeah.
But we still got some interesting things going on in magic.
Yeah.
So, first of all, one of my favorite things, while Timmy and Tabitha were at the mansion, Tabitha was down in Hecuba's lair collecting all of the herbs and things that she
Yeah.
needs to try and pull Kay over to the help Kay come over to the bad side and separate Miguel from Charity, right? And at one point, she like sprinkles some dust in that like pool of water so she can
Yes.
watch what's going on upstairs. And she sees Rebecca.
Oh.
She
I
sees
wrote that
Rebecca
down too.
threatening Julian with the gun, and she goes, "Yes, shoot him, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Shoot him."
So, shoot him, Rebecca. She was so excited. It was
It,
so funny.
I loved that. So yeah, Tabitha's downstairs talking to this lady in a bottle. I'm a lady in a bottle, baby. You
Which
gotta rub me the right way, honey.
it's funny that lady's like, what, you've been working to do this. She goes, what if those potions don't work? And Tabitha's like, yeah, well, why not just give me my powers back? Which is what we're all like. I don't understand. From the very beginning of this series, it's like, it was a punishment. But then I'm like, so you want her to do this. You know she's proven herself for 300 years, but you're not going to give her powers back to just get this shit done. And yeah, it's very frustrating. But
Yeah, it was funny because she does ask the lady, she says, well, why don't you ask the dark forces if they can give me my powers back? Like I'm trying to get this shit done for them, but it's very tough without my powers. And the lady in the bottle's like, okay, I'll be right back. And she goes to ask, and she comes back and says, it's a no-go. It's not gonna happen. They're not gonna give you your
yeah,
powers back. And the lady in the bottle tells Tabitha that you're not going to get your powers back, but however, we are going to help you. Kay's powers are buried very, very deep. And while they are less than Charity's, she does have potential. And so they give her a spell book to give to Kay. And Tabitha is very excited. She says, "It's the book. You didn't tell me you were giving me the book."
yeah.
And the book of what was it called?
Uh,
I
uh,
saw it later.
pain. The book of spells of pain.
Spells of
Uh,
Pain, yeah.
yeah. Well, I
So
laughed because she's like, "We're gonna give you this book to help this girl tap into her potential." I just wrote down Tabitha's gonna tap that. Yeah, because that's what it's gonna go. But yes, they hold out your hands, hold out both hands, and boom, the spell of pains appeared to Tabitha, and
yes.
she's excited about it.
Yeah. And so then she goes back upstairs, does all the stuff in the mansion that they did at the wedding and all of that shit, all of those shenanigans. And after she says that Ivy has a contagious communicable disease and spreads that rumor, she heads back to her home where she runs into Reese and the kids, and Reese immediately is like, "See, gotcha." And because she and Timmy are in like these costumes,
Yeah.
but it is Halloween, we
Oh,
find out.
well, yeah. Well, there's a couple things that happen here. One, that when Rebecca's looking for the guests, she's also looking for the rabbi. And Julian's like, "Yeah, I'll go help because let's get married. I'll go help." He looks out the front window, and Timmy's wig has fallen off, so he sees that the rabbi was in fact Timmy. And he
Yeah.
says it in the mansion, and they're all like, "Whatever, Julian's crazy." Then when they get there, the first thing they do is Tabitha and Timmy are like, "Oh my God, we did this! Like we were successful. They were successful. They got everything they needed to get done." And then Timmy starts to dance and sing the hora,
Yeah.
and that is when Ross walks in and sees them.
Yeah. And but he doesn't catch them for real. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
it's nothing. It's always nothing. It's always a big nothing burger.
yeah,
So yeah, he's like, "Aha, I got you." And Tabitha's like, "I'll have you know, Ross, we were headed to a costume party." I don't know, my accent's so bad. But anyway, we were headed to a costume party. And because it's Halloween, everybody, even though
yeah.
nobody else in this town is celebrating. No,
No,
we sit.
the kids aren't dressed up or anything,
I
which is
saw no
bullshit. You know those
indication.
kids would have been at a fucking party at the youth center or something. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I had no indication. There was no indication that this was Halloween night. Nothing
yeah,
whatsoever. And typically with Passions, they do something for Halloween. We usually
yeah,
see something going on for Halloween with them, but they
yeah.
didn't this year. I don't know why.
Maybe the town of Harmony got together and were like, listen, we saw that house get sucked down to hell. We're not going to celebrate Halloween this
Right?
year.
It's an evil holiday. It's the devil's holiday, which is what I was taught growing up. Which is why we didn't celebrate Halloween. Anyway, um, so they're gonna go to a costume party. No, they're not. They're gonna go to the cemetery.
Yeah.
So Tabitha and Timmy excuse themselves. They go to the cemetery where Tabitha starts to prepare a spell. She says, "Hemlock and heatherbone, nightshade and thyme, bring Kay into the fold. Wait, bring Kay into the fold. Bring her over to our side."
Hmm.
And yeah,
The book vanishes.
yep, we don't see the book, and the book reappears in Tabitha's house where Kay will find it, where she will be able to find it. So meanwhile, the children are all at Tabitha's house. And Charity has had a premonition about Grace and David. Um, and she tells Miguel what it is because they knew that something had happened when Grace and David had left. She clearly something happened that upset her.
Like the energy shifted.
But
Yeah.
she wouldn't say what it was. She was like, "It's nothing. It's stupid. It could never come true. It's not real. It's nothing." But then once Kay leaves the room, Charity tells Miguel, "I saw that vision that I had was of Aunt Grace leaving with David, not Sam, with her
Yeah, with
suitcases and
suitcases.
never coming
Hmm.
back. Like she's gonna leave with David and never come back." And Kay overhears this and is really upset. And honestly, again, Team
But
K, because I heard the way Kay came in, like, you know what, Charity? I am sick and tired of your
stupid, yeah.
premonitions.
She said
Yeah.
stupid premonitions.
Yeah, I'm sick and tired of these stupid premonitions. My mom is not gonna leave my dad. How dare you even say something like that? Charity apologizes. She's like, you know what? You're right. You're right. I mean, I see both sides of this. I do. I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I wrote
Charity's
down,
just so annoying. She's
I
just so
understand that, but
annoying.
I did write down chill out, Kay, because honestly, she's confirming what you saw. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
Charity
it's
doesn't
still
know that
so
that happened.
upsetting.
Of course it is. And
Yeah.
she's lashing out and she has every right, like, she doesn't have the right to lash out, but I
It's
understand where she's
natural.
coming
It's
from by
natural.
lashing out. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's like all she's like, instead of becoming evil and doing anything to stop Miguel, then why not use this opportunity to be like, now this girl who's weird as fuck is confirming what I just saw. So there's another way that we can look at this and be like, hey,
I
no,
guess. I
yeah,
I I think for me,
she's just tired of it.
Kay doesn't like Charity. And listen, let me be clear. I'm not even living the shit and I'm sick of Charity's bullshit. You know, I'm not even in it. And I'm like, "Ugh, girl, shut up. Ugh."
Yeah,
Like I like, I don't know, maybe I'm just mean and nasty, but
no, I get it.
she's so it's exhausting. She's exhausting. That's what it
Yeah,
is. Charity is exhausting. And I understand, even if Kay didn't have like all of these schemes to try and get Miguel, and like she didn't have all of that going on as it pertains to Charity, I could still understand her not liking Charity. She's not very fucking likable. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. She's not very like, she's exhausting. And if you're a teenager, you got your own things going on. You know, you're not fully developed in your own brain anyway. So she's just so, it's just constant doom and gloom and
yeah,
she's just always saying the most horrible things, and she's just so miserable all the time. I could the energy, it's the energy. I wouldn't be able
that's
to
what
just be
yeah,
in the room with that energy all the damn time. And it's every single day, multiple times a day. Multiple times a day, this girl is having horrible visions and telling us about it. I just wouldn't be able to take it on emotionally myself.
yeah. We need somebody to come up with a C word like Debbie Downer. I need one for charity. I don't know what charities would be, but we need one for that.
When you says,
I know, C word. I heard it too.
well,
I was trying to be mature and I couldn't. Yeah.
it made me think of Arrested Development.
Oh
That
yeah.
joke where
Lucille.
Job has bought a boat and it's called the
Yeah.
C word, Seaword, C word. And Lucille comes in, Michael turns to Job, tells him, get rid of the C word because he bought the boat without anybody's permission. He says, get rid of the C word. Lucille turns and says, I'll leave when I'm good and ready. I'll leave when I'm good and ready.
I love
Oh,
that damn
so
show.
good. Get rid of the
Yeah.
C word. Anyway, yeah. So we already got a C word.
Charity.
Charity. She charitied it. It's hard to do like she charitied it up. It's
Yeah.
hard to say. Yeah. She pulled a real, we'll just keep going. She pulled a real charity. We'll do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyway, Kay goes off on her, tells her she's sick of her bullshit.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm sick of you, bitch. First of all, you show up, take my man. Now you're in here trying to send my mom off with another man, which isn't her fault,
Yeah.
but still. Anyway, Charity apologizes. Kay's like, whatever. And then she goes upstairs and she finds the book of spells of pain, the book of
Yeah.
spells or whatever. And then she accidentally says one of the enchantments in the book. I did not write it down. Did you?
No, I just know that at some point she's getting a call. So not only is Tabitha's voice coming through, but she gets that learn from the book, help bring Kay to the dark side. She gets all of that stuff and it's leading her up. I don't know why I feel like I missed the incantation of the spell because I was watching and then all of a sudden she turns in to a Black Panther.
Yeah, she turns into a Black Panther. And meanwhile, Charity has gotten a bad feeling. Like, okay, a lot of things happened simultaneously.
Yes, a
The first
lot.
thing that happened simultaneously was that Tabitha sent the book over into the house, and immediately Charity got a really bad feeling while she and
Yes.
Miguel were dancing. And she
Yeah.
stops and she says, the book of evil, stay away from it.
Yeah.
And so then everybody's like stops in their tracks, like, what? Because Simone and Reese are dancing
Reese.
too.
Yeah.
And she says, if any one of us goes near it, we will be destroyed. So that happens as soon as that lady sends the book over. Then Kay finds the book, and as soon as Kay turns herself into a Black Panther, that's when Charity says she had a premonition about a monster coming out of the book, and that
Yeah,
the
with
evil book was in the house, and that a
like
monster
yellow
was coming out
eyes
of
or
the book.
something. Yeah.
Yes, an evil monster. And
Th-
so yes, Kay has turned herself into this Black Panther, aka evil monster. And she doesn't even realize she's turned herself into a big cat.
Yeah, she's just like, what did that do? Nothing. But she's walking around as a panther, like
Yeah, and
talking
and
in
then
her
once
head,
she
I guess.
once she realizes it, she gets terrified. She runs down the stairs, realize they see her, she runs out. They're like, "Oh my God, whatever, what even happened to Kay?" Instead of going upstairs to check see if Kay is okay, a giant cat just came from where your friend was, just came from where she was. None of them went upstairs to check on her.
Yeah.
They were
They
like,
they
I'm sure she escaped. She
yeah.
might be up there mauled to death. I
Yeah.
don't know.
They
They
yeah.
instead run after the cat.
Which again, my ass, I don't care. I mean, well, first, I guess they faced worse things before, but they made a pact, very Stephen King It style, made a pact, the four of them, that they were going to hunt down evil and that they were going to find who was in charge of this evil. Of course, Ross is like, I know it's Tabitha, but so that happens right before they find out that there is a panther in the house. And again, yeah, like you said, they just go running after it. Where I'm like, wouldn't somebody try and find Kay? You know Kay's in the house. I also was like, where the hell is Jessica? But apparently she's the one that was running the fucking B&B. Her and Liz got horrible jobs.
I was thinking about this when Jessica does show up again. I was like, yeah, you know what? A lot of times these groups, one person will be missing. And the
Yeah.
reason that one person is always missing is so that they can show up and we can recap to them.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's so
I thought about that. I
annoying.
realized that because
Yeah.
she does show up and they tell her, everything that had happened. They bring
Yeah.
everybody up to speed.
And
But
again, she's like, "Where's my sister?" Which I was actually happy to hear that. I'm like, "Okay, thank
yeah,
you for giving them some 3D, three dimensionality. Like, thank you."
yeah, where's my sister? And they're like, we're pretty sure she escaped. You didn't check?
Yeah.
You didn't check? Okay, so they're chasing down this giant predator cat. Meanwhile, at the exact same time that Black Panther K is on the loose, a, a Black Panther just so happens a Black Panther just so happens to escape from the Harmony Zoo. And so now
Yeah.
we've got zookeepers, and they're like, it's a vicious cat. If you see it, put it down, not tranquilize it, kill it. That's
Yeah.
that's psychotic. That's crazy. That's not true.
Yeah.
That would never happen.
Yeah.
That would never happen in a million years, unless it really was like this is a dangerous situation. But like zookeepers try their best to like they spend a lot of first of all, zoos spend so much money on animals. And I'm not saying they
Oh
wouldn't
yeah.
wouldn't kill them because it has happened that they have to, but it's only if they're like attacking someone.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they try to sedate them. They need Eve.
Yeah.
They need Eve and her bag of sedatives for this big cat.
Can you imagine them calling Dr. Russell? Yeah.
Listen, I would not put it past this show. I would not put it past this show. Because she's every doctor, and that includes the vet. And that does include big
She's
animal doctors.
every doctor.
It's all in Eve. Anything you want done, baby. Any test you need done, baby. She'll do it on humans or cats. It doesn't matter. She'll do it on all things. So, yeah, I actually, sincerely,
Yeah.
when I say I would not put it past this show for them to call Dr. Eve Russell to deal with this cat, I wouldn't.
The because she probably minored in veterinary. They'll come up with something. This
She
is all
apparently has
going
a
on.
psychology degree.
Yeah, that's right. And knows how to do lie detector tests.
She's also the medical examiner. She's also the coroner. I mean,
You know what we should do? We'll create a resume for Eve Russell. Like all the things she can do.
oh, that's a stacked resume, man.
Yeah. Just so we know, Tabitha and Timmy are aware of what is happening as well, and Tabitha's like, "Ah, shit, we need to find Kay before they do. If they find out that we're responsible for this, they're gonna come for us." So there's this zookeepers, the kids, and the fucking mystery gang or fucking mystery machines out there. The fucking meddling kids are out there, and Tabitha and Timmy, who are still dressed in the chauffeur and rabbi outfit, running around looking
they're
for
Halloween costumes. That's their cover, their Halloween costumes. So yes, everybody's out trying to catch these panthers, and
Yeah.
then the zookeepers tell the kids, because the kids are like, "That's not a real panther; it's an evil monster cloaked like a panther." And the
Yeah.
zookeeper's like, I literally says, "I don't know what you kids have been smoking, but that's a very real panther that escaped from the zoo today. We are the zookeepers; we should know." And they're like,
Yeah.
"You're in danger. Go the fuck home and let us handle it."
And
So
honestly, if I was walking around looking for the evil, let's say I believe that was the evil, and then they said, "No, a real panther has gotten loose," I'd have been like, "Yeah, let's go home." I mean, like maybe it got into our house. Because they believe all kinds of bullshit. Why wouldn't they believe a group of zookeepers running around with nets and
listen,
guns and shit?
let's be clear that panther, as far as this whole show goes, that panther escaping from the zoo and making its way inside of Tabitha's house is very realistic in the scheme of this show. It's like one of the more tame things that could have happened in the show.
Yeah.
Because remember, the tree, she leaves those windows in the attic open. That
Oh
tree
yeah.
swung in
Yeah.
and like held
Nobody's
her again.
fixed
So there's a
that.
tree by
Yeah.
her right there by that window. Big cat climbs the big tree, jumps his way into the big window.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it. I don't see
Yeah.
any. I think it could be very plausible. So yeah, the children decide, oh, I guess we should leave. Yeah, yeah.
So now we have
we've
this
made a
mix
mistake.
up of, is this the K Panther or is this the Zoo Panther?
Well, the zoo people are about to shoot Kay Panther. That we actually found, like, she's there and she's like, "Oh no, they're gonna shoot me." And Tabitha and Timmy have cornered the real panther and think it's Kay. And Tabitha has told Timmy she's harmless. She's just
Yeah.
cloaked as a panther. She's not really a panther. But the panther is growling at Timmy, and Timmy's like, "Oh, good girl, I can do this." And so that's
Here,
where we
here,
are.
kitty, kitty,
Yeah,
kitty.
and they have like she's like they want to put her on a leash. That's where we are with that. So that's like the end of Magic. You have anything to add?
I'm just hearing that kooky little music that like do 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 do. Like, that's what I was playing in my head because it's
Yeah.
just like quirky, kooky things. I just again, I love some good old Ross hate. At some point, Tabitha just says Ross is a royal pain in the derriere, and what mark my words, one day he'll get his. So I
I
just
don't
love.
know. I don't know why I thought you were gonna say Ross is a real pain in the dick. I know Tabitha didn't say that. Ross is a real pain in the dick. I'm gonna
He
start
also
saying that.
at some point he dances with Simone and steps on Simone's feet. I mean,
Yeah.
like they gave us little fluff in there, but not important. But
No.
yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Fuck.
Yeah.
I do not remember Kay turning into a panther, so that was funny.
Well, now on to some not so fun stuff, honey. Shoeies. Shoeies.
Can I
Sheridan
tell
and
you
Louise.
that as we go into Shui's, I got it when we started. I was like, okay, here we go. Then they disappear for like 2 episodes, and I was like, oh, how refreshing. And then
Mm-hmm.
they came back, and I was like, oh, damn it.
When I tell y'all I do not care about this, I don't care about this.
I
You
know.
can turn the episode off.
You
You can
said we
turn the
have a
episode
couple.
off now. You
So you can be like, all right, well, anything you have to add, we can say our
You
share
are
trophy,
my
and then keep
passion
yeah,
for life.
and then we'll keep talking about if anyone wants to hear about
No, no,
these
no, no.
fucking
Please
yeah,
stay.
we do
Please
it all.
stay.
We
Please
do it
stay.
all.
There's a little bit. There's not a lot, but when I say I
That
do not
is
care
so,
about this, and if I was a listener, I would turn the episode off right the fuck now.
it is so funny to think that you sang the song and people were like, ah, that was a good one, and then we're just gonna keep talking.
Okay, let's talk about this shit. I do not care at all.
No, it's hard. It's
Okay,
hard.
Luis is being pressured to have dinner with Liz and Sheridan and Brian, or
Number
Diana
9.
and Brian. Number 9,
Number
yes,
9.
yes. So
Luis is number 9.
yeah, guest number 9. He keeps telling Liz, "I'm not really in the mood." She's so fucking pushy. She's so pushy this week.
Yeah.
She was last week, but it felt
No.
worse this week.
Yeah. I was like,
Luis does eventually just like fully and completely back out of dinner. He puts his foot down. She
yeah.
keeps trying to pressure him, but finally Luis says, "I just want to be alone and think about the time that I spent with my fiance." She's still pressing him and tells him, "Well, you got to move on sometime." Bitch, I don't know you and you haven't even
Yeah, I
bothered to
know.
learn my fucking name. You don't get to fucking tell me how long when I need to move on. You don't fucking know me, bitch. That shit pissed me off. I That shit pissed me off. She was like, "Well, you got to move on sometime. You can't dwell on the past." Bitch, I lost my fiance a week ago. So you can shut the fuck up talking to me.
And
And you
also
won't
if
even learn my name. She won't even
yeah.
learn his name. So I don't even know why I'm having this conversation with you.
No, I know. And also if Luis knew anything about her, he could totally be like, "Yeah, and you still have feelings for a guy who don't want you. Who
Mm,
could care less about you.
mm. And
But you can't let go of the past?"
and also, if I was Louise, I would be like, "Are you trying to rob me? What is happening? Why are you pressuring me so bad to get out of my room? Like, is this a fucking setup?"
Yeah.
Mm-mm. But anyway, she then tells him, Brian had made this romantic dinner for Diana. They've just started their relationship, and he had planned this romantic dinner for two, but they set that aside so that they could include you. Why would she think that telling him he was going to be a third wheel on a romantic date,
Exactly.
why she thought that would make him then say, "Oh, you know what, you are right, I should get over my fiance and go hang out with these two strangers."
That would have confirmed for me that I'm not wanted there. Like, why would I go hang out with, be a third wheel on somebody's romantic dinner
He
on
says as
Halloween?
much. Yeah, whenever it is. He
Yeah.
says as much to her. Basically, he doesn't want to um
Mess,
sorry.
yeah.
He doesn't
In
want to intrude. Thank you.
There we go.
He doesn't want to intrude, and he very firmly tells Liz, no, thank you. And then he goes off to the beach. Well, Diana comes right after Louise leaves. Of course, we're gonna do this for the next year, and it's pissing
What's
me
funny
off.
is we skipped over the fact that the first episode begins with the two of them outside on their balconies, which makes no sense because she's number 6 and he's number 9, but yet they're terraces. Look at your face. Their balconies should not be lined up with each other, but they are talking out there on the same balcony, with hedges between them, and they're looking out into the stars.
Talking to the moon. Yeah, they're
Luis,
out on
but
their balconies. I did skip over that because it's
yeah,
stupid.
but because that's one of many that are gonna happen. But yeah, Luis is looking at the moon, going, "Late at night when all the world is sleeping,
Sleeping.
I
Yeah.
stay up and think of you,
Is that
and I
Vanessa
still can't
Williams?
believe."
Is that Vanessa Williams?
That's Selena.
Oh, you're right. That is Selena. You're
I'm
right.
looking at the moon and I'm dreaming.
And I'm dreaming of you. Yeah. Okay. Moving on.
Yeah,
They go to
so
the beach. They miss each other on the beach.
let's go get
Um.
away.
Y'all been seeing Nicki Minaj losing her fucking
I
mind on
saw
the
that.
internet? Nicki Minaj is in a death spiral. I don't know what's going on with that lady. She's losing it. She's losing it. And then I did listen to Megan's song Hiss, and it is hot fire. It is
Okay.
so good. Oh, it's so good. I listened to it so many times.
Yeah,
It's
and then
so good.
all my Twitter was Miley Cyrus vindication posts from the Miley What's Good era.
Oh, you know what? See, that's not a part of my like FYP. Oh, I'm not on Twitter either. That's another
Oh, it
thing.
was on
It's not on.
Twitter. It
I
was on
haven't seen
Twitter.
that on TikTok, and I
No,
don't.
our FYPs on TikTok are pretty good, including yours.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about
My
that, but
TikTok blew up
you
this week. Yeah. I had a
yeah.
few TikToks that, yeah, we gained a bunch of followers and everything. It was
I
actually,
like that this feels like the beginning of an episode because that's how much we don't want to talk about Chewy's. We're so
oh,
tired.
listen, y'all. Basically, Luis and Sheridan miss each other over and over again. That's
That's all it
it.
is.
That is
Yeah.
what happens. And then Brian does a tango with Sheridan, and Sheridan is like, wait a minute. I don't like this. And she goes back to her room.
Yeah, because even in the same party, they are at the party. Liz and Luis have a drink, but they're like right there. And Liz is like, there she is right there. Do you see her? And he's like, no, I don't know who you're talking about. And then they never see each other. So
No.
it's
Well,
more
and
of
then
the in the vicinity stuff.
at one point they are on the beach. This one I might have pissed me off the most. Because if I had been watching this and I didn't know what was going on, I definitely would have been like, oh, it's happening,
It's
right?
time. It's time. Yeah.
Because they were on the beach and they 100% saw each other. 100% saw each other. There's no getting around it. We saw her point of view, we saw his point of view. We saw Sheridan's white ass in that beautiful dress, and we saw Luis in that bright red shirt from both of their point of views. But then when the person they see shows
Mhm.
up, Luis was actually seeing Liz? No. No, he was not seeing Liz's black ass. He was seeing Sheridan. And then Brian shows up in his gray ass, ugly ass suit. We saw a man in a red shirt. Period.
Yeah.
They definitely 100% saw each other. They definitely
Yeah.
100% saw each other. And I think I talked about this last week or maybe the week before. It was one of those hi mirage of tiger moments. Like they realized I think they thought they
Yeah.
were just seeing things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then both of them decide to go for a swim,
A
a
night swim.
nighttime swim in the ocean alone. Suicidal. Do
Well,
you want to die?
and it makes me laugh because I'm like, shh, Diana, what is your origin story? All you know is you got washed up somewhere. So you're totally cool going out for a midnight swim by yourself? Like that's asinine.
Who swims in the ocean at night alone?
Yeah.
You have to be either deeply disturbed, or like a professional, like Coast
Yeah.
Guard kind of person who's like doing training, and even then, I doubt they go out there alone because they know
Yeah.
how dangerous it is.
Those undertows. Yeah.
And or you're trying to die, a
Yeah.
la A Star Is Born, just trying
Yeah.
to walk
Uh-huh.
out into the ocean
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
be done with it.
Be done. Yeah.
I just yeah. So
And
anyway,
what is
that's it, y'all. I'm done. I'm
yeah,
finished.
Diana gets a cramp. That's
Yeah,
what it
she
ends
gets a
with.
cramp.
There we
She
go.
starts screaming out for help. Help!
And
Help!
guess what? Luis hears, but what will happen next week? You'll have
And
to come back and find out.
he hears her say help. He hears her yelling out for help. He's like, huh? Somebody yelling? Somebody yelling for help? Oh, no, that can't be. Yeah, you sure it can't be? You're out in the middle of the ocean in the middle of the night. I think you might be hearing somebody yelling for help. Also, you don't recognize Sheridan's voice, but that's whatever. It is what it is. This is not ever going to come to the conclusion I want it to come to, and I'm going to get the fuck over it. Okay. With that, that's it. That's the show. We did it. We're gonna do a post show and talk about some other
Yes.
things today.
Yeah, bonus episode.
Yeah.
Woo!
So check out the bonus episode on the Patreon. I am making some changes to the Patreon, which I probably should have said at the beginning. But from now on, you do not have to be a member of the Patreon to see the bonus episode. You just have to pay for each bonus episode individually. So
Oh,
if
there you
you
go.
decide, it won't be very expensive. I think I'll make it like $2 or something, $3.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that. We'll see. But for the bonus episodes, and there will be other like digital different things that you can go out there and you can just pay for individual things instead of becoming a patron. But it's better. You get more bang for your buck if you just become a patron. But if you would like to watch the bonus episode, go check out the Patreon. It will be there for you to purchase if you are not already a patron. All right.
Sponsored by Crane Industries.
Never. I would never take that blood money.
Sponsored by the Book Cafe, who is owned by Crane
By the
Industries.
Crane Industries. Yeah. No, that's shadow. That's shadow money. Even worse. Even worse. All right. So me and Eric are gonna stay on, but that's it for the main show today. Check out the post show or the bonus episode. And with that, oh, Eric, where can I catch you? Lord Jesus, Sheridan and Luis got me all fucked up.
I was gonna say it would be great if you sang the song and then we still kept going one more time. I'm Mr. Eric Vera. I'm Mr. Eric Vera on everything. I can't even say my own name now with the showy stuff.
And you can catch me on all the social media. Just check the link in the description. So with that, you are my passion for life.